So we're going to go ahead and talk about push-ups as far as how to properly execute the push-up, as well as some progressions and regressions to make them harder or easier, depending on where your strength level is. So before we get to that, just push-ups in general. Push-ups are awesome because they're just a great exercise to really improve your overall upper body strength, as well as core strength. And believe it or not, push-ups are just as much of a core exercise as they are an upper body exercise. And it doesn't require any equipment, which is the real convenient thing about push-ups. So that's why I really enjoy doing them and recommend them for almost everybody. As far as the actual setup of the push-up, so when you're getting into position, if you're starting at the top, there's a few things you want to key in on. The first is just setting your hands up in the right position. So let's pretend I'm lying or I'm in the top of the push-up, okay? I want to make sure that my hands are lined up in line with my chest line, okay? So I don't want my hands too far up where they're right under my head, and I don't want them too far low where they're right lined up like with my belly button. I want to get my hands lined up, like I said, with that chest line. And as far as like the hand length, we want to get our hands, this is a general rule of thumb, right outside of shoulder width or shoulder length apart. Okay, this is gonna vary, obviously, depending on how tall or short we are, or like our limb length of our arms. But as, like I said, as a general rule of thumb, we want to get those hands right outside of shoulder width apart. Okay, we don't want them too far wide. We want them just right outside of those shoulders. Okay. So if I'm in the top right here, okay, if you notice, I'm set up with the hands right under the chest, wrists are right outside of shoulder width apart. Okay. As I start going down into that push-up, there's two big things you want to key in on. The first is my elbow position. I want to keep my elbows stacked over my wrists. I don't want my elbows coming too far outside of my wrists, and I don't want my elbows coming too far in relation to my wrists. I want to keep them right over my wrists, and I'll show you what I mean right now when I start going down. The other thing is just the shoulder position. So this region right here, I want to make sure that as I'm coming down, within this region right here, this shoulder joint, I want to try to make the letter V as I'm coming down. So if you notice, there's like a subtle V right in here. That's what you want to think about making, if you're good at math, a 45-degree angle, okay? I don't want to make an upside down L, meaning I don't want to come down in this position right here. It almost looks like an upside down L, or like a 90-degree angle, okay? We want to shoot for like a 45-degree angle or the letter V as far as the shoulder joint. So as I'm coming down, if you notice, elbows stacked over the wrist. I'm making, it's harder to see from this angle, but I'm making a 45-degree angle with that shoulder joint, okay? I'm getting nice and low. I want to get maybe 2 inches away from the ground, and then I want to come back up, okay? I don't want half reps. If you're doing a half rep, we're only getting halfway to the ground and coming back up. That's not low enough, okay? So that's one common mistake is you'll see, you'll see that people may not get low enough, but that's one thing that you really want to take advantage of. You want to get a full range of motion within that push-up, okay? A few other common mistakes that you might see are your hip position, okay, relative to the rest of your torso. And what I mean by that, and this is where the core component comes into play too, is if we're doing a push-up, okay, and we see that somebody's hips start sagging before like their chest, so their hips are coming down before their chest, or vice versa, and their hips are sticking up and their chest is coming down but not their hips, okay, that's just a lack of a core stability. We're not keeping a stable core, and like I said, that's where that core component comes into play. So you really want to make sure that you're stiffening your stomach and you're squeezing your butt within that entire push-up to just make sure you have a straight torso throughout. So if I'm locking everything in, okay, I'm going to stay neutral, okay? My chest and my hips are coming down at the same time, and I'm coming back up, okay? It's a big reason why I don't like dropping to the knees, okay, as a regression, because once we drop to our knees right here, we're taking the whole core component out of this exercise, okay? This doesn't require any core activation, okay? But if it is too hard, there are a few ways that we can regress this to make it easier. The first, or the big one that I like to use, is actually just elevating your hands onto a surface, okay? So in this case, we have a bench available, okay? So what I would do is I would set up the same exact way as I would on the floor, but all I'm gonna do now is set my hands up on the bench. Everything else is set up the same, torso position is set up the same, and it's still requiring me to activate my core, but this bench is just limiting my range of motion, making it a little bit easier to perform the push-up, okay? As we get stronger, we can try to drop the surface lower and lower and lower, depending on what you have, until we can finally get to the floor, okay? And if we're very advanced with these and push-ups, we can bust out 50, 60 push-ups. The other nice thing about push-ups is there's so many different ways that you can progress this to make this harder, okay? The simplest way that doesn't require anything is just increasing or just modifying the tempo, okay? So I would just add a tempo to each component of the push-up. So in this case, this is just one example. I'd start from the top. I would go with a 4-second lowering, 4, 3, 2, 1. I would go with the 3-second pause, 3, 2, 1, and I would push up for a second. 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, pause, 3, 2, 1, big push up, and repeat that. That's just gonna increase that time under tension, so it's making your muscles work for a longer period of time, and it's just making that push up harder. A few other things that you can do is if you have some sort of resistance, whether it be actual plates or even bands, this is a great way to add resistance to that push-up. So in this case, I have this band. I would just set it up on my back, set up in that push-up position, and now we have some resistance for our push-ups, making it a little bit harder. Boom, boom, okay? And the last thing that we can do is actually, so for the regression, we elevated our hands. For a progression, we can elevate our feet. Elevating our feet makes these difficult as well. In this case, I have the same bench, okay? And I'm just gonna elevate my feet and perform a push-up from here, okay? So those are a variety of ways that we can progress or regress this exercise to make it harder or easier. So hopefully this helps you out as far as how to go about executing a push-up properly and kind of just hits anything as far as where you're at strength-wise, so it can kind of accommodate for everybody. So hopefully this helps as far as the next time you do your push-ups, and let me know what you think.